Strike first, strike hard, no mercy. Let's do this! Okay, so last night my mate Dave came around. I bought some pizza, he brought around some beer, he even brought around some ice cream, and we sat down and watched Cobra Kai Season 2, and we binge watched the entire season in one sitting. Now, I'm not a huge fan of binge watching, not that I don't like it, but there's not many shows that have really grabbed me enough to make me say, okay, I want to dedicate my whole day, let alone a whole week, to watching this whole show straight away. Just the thought in my head of dedicating so many hours, like when people say, you have to watch this show, I'm always like, my first question is always, how many seasons is it? And if they say like more than 2, if they're like, oh, they just finished season 5, I'm always like, yeah, no, I'm out. I don't have 500 hours of my life to dedicate to your show that you like. In fact, the last time a show made me binge watch the whole season quite quickly was Cobra Kai Season 1. I watched the first, I think, 2 or 3 episodes on the first night, and I was like, damn, this show is good. Second night, I was just like, boom, smashed out the rest, and it was amazing. So Cobra Kai is a YouTube originals show, and it is the best fucking show ever. Forget about Game of Thrones, it's all about Cobra Kai. Like, in all seriousness, it is so amazingly good. For anyone who's probably around my age or more, or who basically grew up with the Karate Kid. In fact, it's funny, I mentioned Game of Thrones. They actually talk a lot about Game of Thrones in the show itself. They make a few Game of Thrones references. They make heaps of 80s references. They love, and not just making 80s references in the way I mean, like by having 80s music in there and things like that, and talking about 80s things. They like to say the word 80s, the 80s, in the actual show itself. So if you're a fan of 80s nostalgia, it is totally the show for you, which I know I'm definitely a big fan of 80s nostalgia. So if you grew up to movies like The Karate Kid or movies like No Retreat, No Surrender and things like that, like there's an element to those movies where they're so cheesy, but they are just so good. Cobra Kai Season 2 itself, there's so many bits in it you're watching. I was watching it, like the further the season got, there were just certain things that I was like, man, this is so bad. Like some of the things that goes on, like I can imagine why younger people of this generation would not necessarily like this show, because it literally has some stuff which is like eye-rolling and just so cheesy. But I've never watched anything that was so bad be so good. Like so many things, like I forgive it because of the awesomeness. Like the show itself seems like it's made for 12 to 13 year olds. Like that's the type of stuff, like I kept thinking in my head, like it reminds me of like a Saturday morning sort of like Saved by the Bell type acting and stuff like that, crossed with say Buffy because of all the, you know, the karate and fighting and stuff like that. So it's very much like that. It just feels like it's made for a very young audience, but then all of a sudden there'll be characters dropping F-bombs and things like that, so you're like, oh, well, it's not necessarily made for kids, you know. It's almost as if it wants the people who are my age feel like they're 12 and 13 again. Like that's really, I think, what its goal is. Its audience is those guys who grew up with the Karate Kid, and even though we're all old now, like it makes us feel young again watching the type of story that they're telling and things like that. Like there's so many things in there, and I don't want to give away too many spoilers in this. You really should watch the show yourself. But for people who have seen it, like for example, the balancing on the board on the water when they're doing their thing, like things like that, you know where it's going, but you just can't help, like when then it happens in real life, you just can't help but like, yes, this is so good. Like all the teen drama elements to this are just so over dramatic. The acting is questionable, but it's so over dramatic. The love story side of things is just so cheesy sometimes with the things that happen, the things they say, and sometimes it's just like gay. It's like while I was watching this, there was a small part of my brain which was just like, oh my god, this is so lame and so bad. But then the majority of the rest of my brain was like, this is the best shit ever! So for those who don't know the Karate Kid story, Cobra Kai is actually the story about Johnny Lawrence, who is actually the bad guy from the original Karate Kid movie. Now, quite some time ago, there was a video that came out on the internet, basically, where it came up with this theory how Daniel LaRusso was not being bullied in the Karate Kid. In fact, Daniel LaRusso was the bully. It was quite a funny video that was made. It's quite old now, about how they basically reversed the roles. They showed certain bits in the movie and talked about, you know, little things that made Daniel LaRusso seem to be like the kid who was the bully, and that Johnny was the bullied. So Cobra Kai really sort of takes from that sort of a theory of the Karate Kid, and Johnny Lawrence is supposed to be the hero of this story. He's the guy who's just clueless in this world. He's like he's washed up, and he's basically trying to make a better man of himself. So he's like the anti-hero in this story. They really want you to root for Johnny Lawrence, and they make Daniel LaRusso obviously a little bit more of the bully. Daniel LaRusso is the successful businessman type in this now, who is, you know, a celebrity because of the famous crane kick he gave to Johnny's face. So he's the, you know, he's the successful one, while Johnny Lawrence is really the underdog, you know. So the show makes you want to root for Johnny Lawrence, right? Daniel LaRusso, technically, he's not the bad guy. He's not a bad guy at all, but they definitely try to paint him in a different light. Like, basically, in The Karate Kid, Daniel LaRusso was the new kid to the school. He was very unsure of where he belonged, unsure of himself and things like that. While Johnny was like the popular kid. He got all the babes and all that sort of stuff. So now, all these years later, it's like they've reversed the roles. Daniel LaRusso is the successful one, while Johnny Lawrence is basically a fish out of water in this new world. Like, there's a hilarious scene, I won't give away too much, but there's a hilarious scene where you find out that Johnny's never used the internet, and that leads to some quite very funny scenes. But I just want to say something very quickly. I know I'm going to get trolled so hard for this, but I know everyone is like, Johnny Lawrence forever, Cobra Kai forever, right? Because that's what the story wants you to feel. I'm just going to put it out there. I am Miyagi-Do all the way. I've been a LaRusso fan since I was, 4 or 5. I'm loyal, alright? I'm not just gonna jump ship because some show tells me to, alright? It's very simple. Cobra Kai represents the bullies. They have in the first movie, and even the tactics, even though Johnny's trying to make a better man of himself and a better Cobra Kai, they still represent the bully. While Miyagi-Do represents the kids who are being bullied, and that's all it comes down to. And I'm all about bullies getting what they deserve. Don't get me wrong, I love Johnny Lawrence now. Like, I love an underdog story too. I love the guy who can basically, you know, turn it around and go from shit to, you know, to like, you know, the comeback story. I love a good comeback story. And that's what Cobra Kai Season 2 is really about. It's really about the comeback, the second chances. Every character in this story, whether they're good or bad, whether you like them or don't dislike them, like the main characters, majority of them who are good will also have moments in the show where they show their bad traits, or they do something where you kind of question, oh, well, that's a bit out of character for you, or well, that wasn't the right thing to do. All the good characters sort of have that, but then also you know that they have the good side of them and you see that. So the show really plays on that, how everyone has their good traits and their bad traits. So yeah, Cobra Kai Season 2 really is all about second chances. In fact, the main story is really how Johnny lets his original Sensei Kreese from the original Karate Kid movie back into Cobra Kai, giving him a second chance. I mean, he says himself, everyone deserves a second chance. And look, that's true in life, I believe. You cannot judge someone on something they did, you know, 10 years ago. People do change, and I'm a real believer of that. So Cobra Kai, you know, pulls them strings in the right way. So yeah, to sum it up, look, the story of Cobra Kai, like, the acting in it is not great. It really feels like that Saturday morning teen show that you would see, that you watched when you were, you know, 12 years old and things like that. It is just so basic. The martial arts in it is pretty horrible. It looks worse than Power Rangers, but they just managed to pull it off with basic storytelling, just showing you that just a simple story. There are obviously lots of twists. I love the twists that they give the characters, that you find out, you know, little things. They do a really good job of that, but it really is just very basic storytelling done at its best, where you forgive it for all its cheesiness, you forgive it for all the basic things and, like, you know, all that. So never have I really watched a show that's really had that sort of effect on me. Yeah, the storytelling is really what makes Cobra Kai great. It really brings you back to the 80s for all those films, Karate Kid, No Retreat, No Surrender, all those action martial arts films, Bloodsport, all that sort of stuff. It really does bring you back and give you that same feel, even though it's this weird show that seems like it's made for fucking 12-year-olds. So yeah, that's my review for Cobra Kai Season 2. Like I said, forget all about Game of Thrones. This is a show you need to be on if you have not watched Cobra Kai 2. You can go to YouTube, At the moment, they've been offering me that 30-day free subscription. Basically, just sign up to that free subscription if you got that offer and just smash out both seasons if you haven't seen it. It really is one of the greatest shows of all time. Thanks for watching my video on Cobra Kai. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to leave some links probably to my Facebook, maybe some links to some previous videos of mine. And till next time, don't forget, strike first, strike hard, no mercy, Cobra Kai never dies. Oh, and just one more thing I totally forgot to show you in this video. I don't know if you've ever noticed this shop. I've obviously got a lot of UFC sort of memorabilia on here, but something that's only, I don't know if you guys have ever picked up, but is the autograph of William Zabka, who is Johnny Lawrence himself. My boy Ashby gave me this a while ago, who just likes to give me things sometimes because he's such a nice guy. But yeah, he actually gave me this, which he picked up a while ago, I think before Cobra Kai actually came out. But I'm very happy that I've got this. Thank you, Ashby. Anyway, guys, Cobra Kai never dies.